Welcome to Tino's Time Wrestling. And on this very special episode, we are going to talk about the WWE Draft. Yes, I said that it's time to shake things up a little bit in the WWE, and it's time for the red and blue brands to get shaken up, and it's time for the WWE Draft. The first night of the highly anticipated 2021 draft begins tonight on the Blue brand on Fox tonight at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Plus, weeks after his epic return against Seth Rollins, Edge will be returning to SmackDown after being taken away in an ambulance. What will Edge have to say, and what is he going to have to say to the visionary of Drip, Seth Rollins? Are we going to see Seth Rollins versus Edge Part 3 at Crown Jewel? Probably, and I'm down for it. From Raw to SmackDown, who is heading from Friday nights to Monday nights? Who's heading to Monday nights to Friday nights? No title holders are safe. No tag team champions are safe. No tag teams are safe. Everything can go. Nobody can stay together. The unexpected can happen tonight. The only thing that is certain is nothing will ever be the same after the 2 nights of the WWE 2021 draft. And let's get started with everything that's going to go down in the Blue brand tonight on SmackDown, and we're going to talk about how the draft is going to go and how hopefully it works. Hopefully we'll see some GMs, and then I'm going to give you my predictions on people that I think are going to go from Raw to SmackDown. There's rumors that we're having some NXT superstars be called up, so I'll be giving you my predictions on who I think the NXT superstars are going to be called up and which brand they're going to go to. So let's not waste any more time, and let's talk about the draft. The WWE Draft, if you remember back in the day, back in like 2000, they did it with Eric Bischoff and Vince McMahon, and they came out and one by one, they picked their rosters, and we had John Cena as the number 1 pick one year. We've seen Roman Reigns be the number 1 pick. We've seen Drew McIntyre. We've seen Dean Ambrose, Jon Moxley. We've seen all these number 1 picks. But back in the day, the way they used to do it was so much better. If you remember, like I just mentioned, Eric Bischoff and Vince McMahon would come out. But then as the years have went on, it just seems like it's gotten worse. The last time they actually had GMs was when Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon was versus Stephanie McMahon and Mick Foley when they did the brand split back in 2016. But other than that, there really hasn't been GMs, and ever since they've done the Superstar Shakeup, the WWE Draft, it's always just been Stephanie McMahon coming out and saying that the USA executives and the Fox executives are picking these superstars. But really, it just seems like, it never really works that way, and I really hope that they do change it up because it's one of those things that I've always loved drafts, MLB, baseball, football, basketball, whatever draft it is. And I'm happy that they do it in the WWE. But just the way they do it, there hasn't been any rules announced as of now. But if you remember in the past, they've always done it where SmackDown gets 2 picks and Raw gets 3 picks because SmackDown is 2 hours and Raw is 3 hours. So I'm sure they're probably going to stick to that. And I'm sure they're going to probably have it to where some championships might switch brands, or, hopefully they don't do it last year where they have the tag team switch brands and then they just swap titles. That would be kind of stupid because in my opinion, I really didn't like it. And I really don't see the Usos changing brands, but we'll get into that in a little bit when I give you my predictions on what's going to go on and who I think is going to switch brands. But it's just one of those things. So while I was talking about my predictions, let's get into my predictions and let's talk about the people that I do think are going to be called up and the people that I think are going to go to Raw and SmackDown. But remember, the draft is 2 nights, and the first night does happen tonight on SmackDown, and then this upcoming Monday on Raw on the USA Network. So I'm sure we're not going to see everybody get drafted tonight, and I'm sure it's not going to, hopefully it is all about the draft, and hopefully we do see, Seth Rollins and Edge make a match at Crown Jewel official. That would be interesting, but hopefully they do focus a lot more on the draft, and we don't just see random matches and then Stephanie McMahon come out, and that's just no fun. We want to see it, I just want to see it the way how it used to be back in the day. But for my predictions, we're going to start off with the champions. And I think that, for Raw, obviously Big E should stay on Raw because he is the WWE champion. Charlotte Flair stay on Raw because she's the Raw Women's champion. And then on SmackDown, Roman Reigns and Becky Lynch, because they are the two champions. And I don't really see them switching brands because it wouldn't really make sense, especially because the titles are the color of the brand. So I just see those two staying on their brands. But now for the United States and the Intercontinental Champion, I think that they do switch brands. And I do see King Nakamura going over to Raw and Damian Priest going over to SmackDown. Damian Priest, has been on Raw for a while now. He just finished that rivalry with Sheamus. And I just feel like if he went over to SmackDown, we could see so many other things have him do. And we could see him battle other guys that we have not seen him face, that because he's been on Raw this whole entire time. And in the past they always seem to do this, and they always seem to switch the US championship and the Intercontinental champion. So I don't see that not changing at this time in this year. So guarantee it that those two will probably switch brands. And now for the tag team champions, I don't see them switching brands. The Usos and RK Bro, Randy Orton and Riddle, I feel like they're going to stay on their brands. They're going to stay on Raw and SmackDown, and that's okay because, I don't think the Usos should be split up from Roman Reigns, the head of the table, the bloodline, because if you've watched the past few weeks of WWE programming, we saw this past Monday, the Hurt Business got back together, Cedric Alexander, Shelton Benjamin, and Bobby Lashley, the Almighty, and MVP's hurt, but I'm sure he'll be back soon, and that's really good because the Hurt Business was a faction that I really liked, and I was really upset, and a lot of people was upset that they did get rid of them at the time that they did, but now that they're back, hopefully we could see, maybe we'll see a 3-man tag team or a 9-man tag team match between the Usos and somebody, the Hurt Business, and the New Day. That would be really cool for a Survivor Series match. And let's see, maybe they'll get the champions involved. I'd rather see a triple threat match. But let's just see what happens. But that would be really cool, and that would just be something else. But now, for people I think that are going to switch brands and that are going to go from Raw to SmackDown and SmackDown to Raw. For SmackDown, I think that the big the big acquired person that SmackDown will be Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre's been on Raw. He's been fighting for the WWE champion now for a while. He came out and he tried to get another opportunity a few weeks ago, last week, But I think it's time for Drew McIntyre to switch brands. And if they're going to do Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre, I'm down for it. And, it's one of those things that Roman Reigns will be facing Brock Lesnar at Crown Jewel at the end of October. But for a match later down the road to see Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship would be really cool. So I can see Drew McIntyre switching brands and also Apollo Crews. I know Apollo Crews isn't such a big name for, being like the guy that's in the mid-card and fighting King Nakamura. But I can definitely see them doing that because they always seem to do this where they always just switch a rivalry to a different brand and they think that we don't notice. So I could definitely see them just switching the Intercontinental rivalry over to Raw and having Apollo Crews and King Nakamura face each other, even though that's not what we want. That's what has happened in the past, and I'm sure it's not going to change. So other people I think that are going to change brands, I think, Brock Lesnar has been on Raw, and he's been back and forth, and he's been a free agent, but I think they're going to draft Brock Lesnar to SmackDown because he is facing Roman Reigns at Crown Jewel, and that would only make sense because now that, they're going to be in the rivalry, it only makes sense for them to be on the same brand. So also going over to Raw, I see Carmella, Dolph Ziggler, and Robert Roode. Those three are three people that, Carmella's been on SmackDown since the brand split back in 2016. I think her going over to Monday nights would definitely be something new for her. She's, she is the most beautiful woman in the world, only to her. She is beautiful, but she's not the most beautiful woman in the WWE like she thinks she is. But not hating on you, Carmella, because you're still beautiful. But I could definitely see her going over to Raw. Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode, they've been a tag team for a while, the Dirty Dogs. And I could definitely see them going over to Raw because Raw is very desperate for tag teams. And in general, for tag teams, there's just not very many people that, that they have in the tag team division. So I can definitely see them going over to Raw. And Dolph Ziggler always seems to switch brands in the draft. Also, another guy coming over from SmackDown to Raw, I could see Happy Corbin. Happy Corbin has been doing his thing. He's like a knockoff version of Cameron Grimes, take it to the moon and back. I don't know what Vince McMahon was thinking, but, Corbin was a loser. He had no money. He was begging people for money, and then all of a sudden he won the lottery, and now he comes out in a limo. He looks like JBL. He looks like Cameron Grimes. He thinks he's the big baller. So, he's been kind of building up on SmackDown, and I could definitely see Vince moving him over to Raw and putting him on Monday nights just because, that's what they like to do, and that's just something that, not that I don't like Corbin, and I don't understand why his name is Happy Corbin. Is it like Happy Gilmore? Is he going to start playing golf? Or I don't understand, but definitely see Happy Corbin, Baron Corbin go over to Raw. But now for some names to go over to SmackDown. I think Doudrop will switch brands and she will go to SmackDown. She's had a rivalry with Eva Marie, but that really isn't gone anywhere in my opinion. So I think it would definitely be beneficial for her to move brands and go over to SmackDown, and maybe she'll get the opportunity to have a rivalry with somebody on the SmackDown women's roster, or maybe she'll get the opportunity at the SmackDown women's title, even though we probably will see a triple threat at Crown Jewel between Becky Lynch, Sasha Banks, and Bianca Belair. Even though I do think that those three women will stay on SmackDown, I do hope that they do, but I've heard rumors that Sasha might be going over to Raw, so maybe she'll go over to Raw, but she'll still be in the triple threat match, and she'll obviously lose, but that's just a way to have it a bigger match at Crown Jewel. We'll have to see, but that is just a rumor, but definitely seeing Doudrop would benefit her. Also, a few other people that it would benefit to go over and switch brands is Jeff Hardy, Keith Bearcat Lee, and Ricochet. Jeff Hardy has been in the, he fought Damian Priest for the United States Champion, and we talked about with the Intercontinental Champion, they always like to do that and keep rivalries and switch brands and think that we don't notice. So I could definitely see Jeff Hardy going over to SmackDown with Damian Priest, and I'm keeping that rivalry going, and that's not a bad rivalry, but yeah. So I want to see the Jeff Hardy Swanton Bomb doing guy go over to SmackDown. That's just my opinion. Now for Keith Bearcat Lee. Keith Lee, ever since he's been called up, he's kind of not had as good as a run as we all wanted him to. As many NXT superstars have not had a very good run. I think that Keith Lee would definitely benefit to go over to SmackDown and switch brands, because he's been on Raw now for a while since he's got called up, and there really hasn't been much for him to do. So he's a guy that I think should be drafted to SmackDown, and seeing him on Fox on Friday nights would just be a lot better, and I just think they could do a lot more of them. Speaking of a guy they could do a lot more with if they could switch brands is Ricochet. Ricochet is one of those guys. He had such an amazing run in NXT. He was the North American champion. He came up. He was the United States champion. He's had a few okay rivalries, but now he's just getting lost in the shuffle on Raw, and we've always talked about it as the WWE Universe. Raw is too long, it's 3 hours, and in my opinion, Raw needs to switch to 2 hours, and it would just be better and be even, because, we see what NXT does, NXT 2.0, the new version of NXT. We saw what they've done with new people, and, even though people are still getting used to it, I just think taking away that hour from Raw would definitely be beneficial, because there's just so many guys that get lost in the shuffle, and we see so many randomness on Monday Night Raw that half the time I'm falling asleep halfway through or at 9 o'clock. I'm like, oh crap, we have another hour of Monday Night Raw, and that's just no fun. So I think Ricochet going over to SmackDown would definitely be beneficial. Now, let's talk about a tag team that I think they're going to split up, because there's been rumors about it, and I really hope it doesn't happen, but they always do it for some reason, like we've seen with Heavy Machinery, we've seen with Great American Alpha, we've seen with guys in the past, in the older days, we saw the Dudley Boys get broken up, the Hardy Boys get broken up. So a tag team that I feel like they may break up is the Street Profits. We've heard rumors. Montez Ford had a match with Roman Reigns in a singles match, and he didn't do bad, but I love the Street Profits as what they are, and I just don't think that you could take them apart, and because it's one of those things, just like with Heavy Machinery, Tucker got lost in the shuffle, and if they start using Angelo Dawkins as a jobber on the 24/7 title, I'm gonna strangle Vince McMahon just like Seth Rollins was after that horrible Hell in a Cell match a few years ago. But it's one of those things that, he's going to do it, and that's just one of the guys that I think, that's one of the tag teams I think they're going to break up, so I could definitely see Montez forward staying on SmackDown with Bianca Belair, and Angelo Dawkins will go over to Raw. But it's one of those things, I don't know how much, tag teams don't seem to benefit a lot when they break up. So let's just keep them together. And the tag team division, as weak as it is, and it's just not what it used to be. I mean, we have the Dirty Dogs, we have Humberto Carrillo and Angel Garza. We have a bunch of random mixed tag teams that have just been put together, like T-Bar and Mace, and just a bunch of randomness. So let's hope that doesn't happen. But that is a rumor that I just wanted to mention. So, now that we've mentioned some guys that are going to go over from Raw to SmackDown and SmackDown to Raw, let's talk about the people that are some people that I think will be called up from NXT and which brand they're going to go to. And NXT now, NXT 2.0, they're kind of going in like an MTV style and kind of like a teenage vibe, which is fine with me, and it's not that I haven't enjoyed it. It's just taking a little bit getting used to, and I'm sure it's going to get better as it goes. And we've seen so many debuts in NXT. Now, the NXT roster is kind of getting filled up, so hopefully they can take these superstars and put them on Raw and SmackDown and use them in good form, because we've seen in the past with Ricochet, we've seen it with Keith Lee, Mia Yim, we haven't seen Mia Yim, Reckoning, we haven't seen all these people. We've seen people like Adam Cole go from NXT to AEW, we've seen people leave, and it's just one of those things that they're not going to get used right, because I've talked about it in my past episodes. Adam Cole was going to get a name changed and be paired up with Keith Lee and be his manager. That's an awful idea, and honestly, I'm happy that Adam Cole went to AEW, but let's hope that none of these superstars let's hope none of that happens to any of these superstars and they get used right. So the few people that I think that will go up to Raw, or that are going to go to SmackDown, I don't know everybody that's going to go to SmackDown, so I'm going to give you 3 people that I think will go to SmackDown in the draft, and there's probably will be more, but Dakota Kai, Aaliyah, and Kushida. Dakota Kai, she was with Raquel Gonzalez. She had a rivalry with Tegan Nox. Nox now and on SmackDown. She is somebody that, again, I also hope stays on SmackDown, and maybe we'll see her get a singles run. Shotzi Blackheart. Shotzi is now on SmackDown. They're in a tag team. We'll have to see. But Dakota Kai is somebody that I think deserves to be called up to the main roster. She's been in NXT for a very long time now, and I just think it's time, even though I talk about it and we all talk about how once these people get called up, they get wasted, but I just think that there's so much more of an opportunity. Plus, it would be nice to see some new blood in the women's division on both Raw and SmackDown, because it's just not feeling fresh, and it's just feeling like we're seeing the same thing over and over again. If I have to see Natalya versus Liv Morgan 7 times again, I'm gonna kill somebody. It's just ridiculous. I just not nothing against them. I love both of them, but I just want to see some new blood. Also, Aaliyah, she was with the Robert Stone brand. She was kind of doing her thing, and we haven't seen her too much a lot in NXT, so I could definitely see her being called up and her having the opportunity to be on SmackDown. And hey, if I would love to see her versus Liv Morgan, one of those matches, or Dakota Kai, and just one of those things that you're seeing the new blood. Also, Kushida, he was the Cruiserweight champion. He lost it recently. He hasn't, we don't know what's going to happen to him. So I just feel like maybe bringing him up and being that guy on the SmackDown brand that can kind of be like a Ricochet, and see him versus Ricochet would be cool. Or just see different types of matches with Ricochet or with Kushida. That would just be fun. And, I'm sure there's going to be more NXT superstars called up. I don't know if Johnny Gargano will. The way, we've seen Indy Hartwell and Dexter Lumis, the wedding, the honeymoon, they've been doing their thing. But speaking of the way, I do think that one person that will be called up in the way is Candice LeRae. Candice LeRae has been doing her thing, and she's been in NXT for a long time. We've seen her be an evil girl. We've seen her be the best. We're seeing her do the comedy with Johnny Gargano in the way. We're seeing her be like that mom. But giving her the call up to Raw would be really good for her and give her the opportunity to go on her own. And let's see her versus Charlotte Flair, because that's a match that would be awesome. And speaking of 2 other women that should be called up, I think, and they should fight for the women's tag titles. Remember, we still have women's tag titles. If you don't know, Rhea Ripley and Nikki ASH are the women's tag champions, and so they can go to both brands, so it really doesn't matter where they get drafted. But a tag team I can see getting drafted from NXT is Casey Capizzaro and Caden Carter. Caden Carter and Casey are two people that have been in NXT. You know, Casey was in American Ninja Warrior back in the day. She's been wrestling for a while. She also dated Ricochet. Lucky Ricochet, doing your thing. Good for you. I don't know how you lost her, but anyway, Caden Carter and Casey Capizzaro getting called up to Raw would be really good. And let's see those two face Rhea and Nikki ASH. And let's see the women's tag titles be used the way that they should be used, because, you know, they're just not being used at all. Also, another girl that I think should be called up in the draft, it's Scarlett. We've seen Killian Cross come out, and he's just not getting the reaction that he gets in NXT, and he's not getting, you know, what he wants, and people seem bored when he comes out. So definitely adding Scarlett to his character, and if they could bring him back and be the guy that he was in NXT and with the darkness, and have her come out, and I think attracting, you know, just because guys like women and, you know, the blonde girls and Vince and the blonde girls, I think that definitely bringing Scarlett with Killian Cross's character would be beneficial, even if she is a side to him, and maybe down the road we'll see her get a singles opportunity, hopefully not right away, just because I think that she would add more to Killian Cross. So Scarlett being called up, because, you know, we really haven't seen her, and, you know, Killian Cross has been on Raw now for a few weeks, ever since he lost the NXT Championship, so let's see Scarlett. The last guy, though, I'm going to predict to go to Raw is, he is also an ex-Cruiserweight champion, and, you know, he's been fighting Johnny Gargano. He's been trying to go after the North American Championship. He's been trying to do his thing. It's Santos Escobar. Santos Escobar, LD Fantasma. I finally got that right. Yes. Haven't done that in a minute. But Santos Escobar, I think, being called up to Raw or even SmackDown, but I would rather see him go to Raw. I think him going to Raw would definitely be beneficial to him. And, you know, even if he doesn't get like that big bang rivalry right away, but seeing maybe him versus King Nakamura for the Intercontinental title, that would be a match that would be awesome to watch. You know, there's so many matches that you can do with these superstars if you just use them right, people. There are so many things that we can use and do with all these great superstars from NXT, Raw, and SmackDown, but I just hope that in this WWE draft, they do it right and they put the people where they're going to be used, and we're not just going to see a bunch of people sitting catering. Because we've seen what happened. We've seen Daniel Bryan leave, Adam Cole leave, Bray Wyatt probably is going to show up in AEW in a few weeks. It's just all these ex-WWE superstars leave because they don't want to deal with Vince McMahon and the scripting and the promos and everything, and they just want to have creative freedom. So hopefully this WWE draft does shake things up a little bit, and it is fun, and I'm sure we're going to see so many more superstars switch brands and go from brand to brand to brand, but I didn't want to give you all of it. You don't want to listen to me talk about the WWE draft for 45 to an hour, 2 hours, but, you know, I got to give you the information, so in case you do miss it, or in case you can't watch it, you go back and listen to Tino's Time Wrestling Draft Preview, and then on Monday night, Tuesday morning, we could go back and we're going to do a WWE Draft Recap, and we're going to talk about where everybody went, where everybody landed, what NXT superstars were called up, what tag teams got broken up, which championships, which brands. Maybe we see a debut. Maybe we see a return. Maybe we see somebody who we haven't seen in a little bit. That would be fun, you know, just something incredible to get our emotions up. That would be fun. We haven't seen one of those things in a little bit. But I hope everybody enjoyed my WWE Draft Preview. I hope everybody loves the WWE Draft and enjoys it. And hopefully it does live up to the expectations. I hope everybody remember to smash that subscribe button. Press the like button. Follow at TinoTime1996 on Instagram, on Twitter. On Instagram, it's TinoTime10. Tino Time Wrestling on Instagram. Make sure to go follow my Facebook pages. Again, smash that subscribe button and help your boy Tino out. Enjoy the WWE Draft. And until Monday night, like I said, Tuesday morning, when we do a WWE Draft Recap, and we go everything that happened in the two phenomenal nights that is going to be the WWE Draft. This is your boy Tino, signing out.